Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day, great afternoon, great night. Just a great time in general when you're watching this. So, today's video, I had a little bit of a thought to kind of just put my thoughts out there about Apple versus Android or Android versus Apple. It honestly doesn't really matter. It just matters to the people that want to bring it up. To be really honest, the big difference between the phones is the fact that you can get everything you ever need out of a phone in a Android for a cheaper price that lasts way longer than an Apple. It's just straight up. All of them cost at least what's the lowest Apple phone right now? Like what, $600? You can get literally I think one of the Pixels is literally 400, 500. You can get so much better, cheaper phones from something name brand. You can even get cheaper phones that just in general that are going to be way better than an iPhone that you can find on Amazon for like 100, 150 bucks, 200 bucks. I wrote out some things that I wanted to also talk about, which is the fact that Android has a lot of variety to it. Whether or not you want a phone with a stylus, you want a phone that flips out, you want a phone that flips up. I mean, you want. I used to have the LG Flip, which I really loved. The only real problem it had was they were too focused on getting the phone to just work to worry about like all the stuff you really needed, which I didn't really know at the time. I just bought it thinking it would be great. LG also failed because they were spreading their market way too thin. You can find so much variety with an Android versus variety with an iPhone. There it really isn't. They're all the same phone. Every single year they try to be different, but honestly, they are entirely the same phone, just with like little tweaks here and there. Otherwise, they are completely the same phone. And personally, I would rather even get a shittier, cheap ass phone than get an iPhone because I know how the operating system really works on an Android. I can do a whole bunch of customization versus Apple, where there is basic, like I call it fake customization because honestly it really feels like it's fake customization. You get some kind of icon packs that are trying to make it to where you can change your font a little bit. They gave you an always on display. Like they just did so many things that Android has been doing for a really long time already, and it's just like they're playing this like crazy level of catch up, but people still buy their phones as if they're an amazing company. Apple, much like Dell, should just be a government and military company, and that's it, or just a business company because of their connectivity. That should be their only purpose, is business and government, because it's like all the seamless transference. If they fixed iCloud a little bit better, it would be better that way. Just the quick texting, well, the quick Wi-Fi texting, basically. But otherwise, realistically, you get so much more out of even a cheap ass Android versus an iPhone. Like literally, the only difference between the two is you can also, I mean, really, one of the differences to also mention is that you can pop out an iPhone, make an account, and it can work relatively easily. It's a little bit harder on an Android because you got to download other apps and things like that versus using iMessage, and I think that's kind of the only thing they really have as kind of a plus. Like it can be an iPod. Wow. Honestly, the blue versus green tech shit is, I'm glad that that's finally going away, but genuinely that's so fucking stupid that we were arguing about the colors of text messages. Nothing changed. Nothing really. All it really made it to where was you could text people on Wi-Fi. That's really about it. Nothing really changed otherwise. So why are you being like, sure, there is some things that are also cooler on iMessage, like the games and stuff like that. And it feels a bit more connected that way with iMessage games and stuff like that. But I will say that honestly that doesn't change anything, because Google Messages are getting to a point where you can react to stuff, and I'm pretty sure they have games, but I'm not really sure. I'm just a main Samsung message user. It's just, I like how easy it is for me. I can also change people's ringtones. You can't really do that on Google Messages, at least until they update it or something. They're always updating shit. With Apple, I believe you can do that, like, but it's fake customization. You get these little things in your phone that is like, wow, look, I can kind of customize a little bit differently, but it's not really the same as an Android, where you can almost change your entire phone to do basically anything you want to do. Oh, and I mean, the amount of cameras that you can get with an Android, like the range you can get, the type of camera, whether or not you want to do night mode, or if you want better fast time shooting, or if you want 4K, or if you want long distance, versus an iPhone where you have to get the most expensive one if you want any of those features. Yeah, they have made a little bit of their cameras better, not really. Like, and you find out if you go into the hardware or the software about some of these apps, they're not even using the proper camera that they're telling you they're using. They're using artificial intelligence to take that photo, so it's not even the right photo. I mean, something else that's funny is the amount of people that send each other photos and they have an iPhone, but you know that your iPhone isn't actually sending that photo properly, and you're also not receiving photos really well, so it's all coming through grainy and gross, and it just really sucks, to be really honest. You should get an Android where you can have a better, texting and, photo sharing experience. All except Snapchat, because y'all had to have one special dumbass app that honestly isn't even that cool. Oh, and honestly, it's pretty wild how with just about every Android phone, you can either still find micro USB, but those are still in a lot of other things, so you'll still have other chargers, but how they easily all changed to USB-C versus Apple, who straight up needed a country to fucking ban it for them to go, maybe we should now change it. And then they were difficult about changing it, where they were making it to where you could only get certain chargers. And I think only now it's different, where you can use a regular USB-C charger, where you still could use one, it just throttles your battery. But that's even something to mention as well. Just about every Android, especially the cheapest ones, are going to have a better battery than an iPhone. I used to kill my battery so much and so quickly, no matter any of the charging tips I used, anything. It would destroy my battery, and it was just so frustrating. But now with my Samsung I have, that shit stays on forever. Sometimes I rarely even need to charge my battery, and it's usually just a top up, and even that, otherwise I'm pretty good golden with my battery for a long time, no matter how much photos. The only time I had really a problem is when I was taking video, and that was about it. Something I always think of when I think of Android versus Apple is the fact that Android is easily complex. So some of the reasons I've heard from people not really liking Android is there's so much that they don't really know what to do with it, and I can understand that. I don't fault you for that. I mean, to be really honest, if you have an iPhone, you have an iPhone. Fuck it. Like, I couldn't give a shit less. However, the idea that iPhones are also complicated easy is also a thing. Like, to me, there is so many intricate settings in an iPhone that you have to turn off, like for location and all these various other tracking things just to keep them from accessing your other files, is really dumb. It just is. And I shouldn't have to watch out for that much. And realistically, something I like with my Android is I also have better privacy, because I can turn off my microphone and my camera. You cannot do that on an iPhone. They are watching you 24/7. Not to be like they're watching you, but like they are. And you gotta know that, because we all know that phenomenon of, oh, you talked about it, now it's gonna appear on your feed. Android had kind of this like unfortunate thing with them, but unfortunate to fortunate, where they started out shitty designs and stuff like that, but then later on, now their phones are looking pretty sick, even the cheaper ones. Like, you're still getting a good design no matter what. Apple, however, they started out actually looking pretty cool. I used to love all the original designs. I love that boxy look that they're trying to go back to. But here's the thing. Then they started going through all these transitions of phones to the point to where I think the design is honestly so basic and so shit that I'm just like, at this point, they should just go back to just making iPod touches or just making phones for businesses, like you set up business plans with them and stuff like that, and let all their other products, like the MacBooks and stuff like that, people still can engage with those. But the phones, we don't need the phone market anymore. It's dumb, it's ridiculous. But if you have one, go for it. I'm glad you like your iPhone. Doesn't bother me. It bothers me, this whole thing. Like, to be really honest, the connectivity on Samsung versus Apple is really where this all stems from, on who's better on what, because that's really the only important part. Samsung and all the other Android networks took a while to get better at their connectivity. Some were already just decent, but they took a while to get better. Apple was always pretty good at keeping your files together and keeping stuff shareable. Yes, because they were trying to share music, share ideas and stuff like that. Totally cool, totally great. That is why I think they should be moving towards business stuff, because then, at least for phones, businesses can easily connect all their stuff together, but your laptop the MacBook should be able to take better USBs, SIM cards, and should just be able to connect to an Android a lot easier than it is. You have to either find an application or find multiple apps to try and get it to connect sometimes, or you just use Google, and then it just kind of feels weird because you're using Google on an Apple. But that's kind of all my thoughts I really had on Android versus Apple. If you have an Android, cool. If you have an iPhone, cool. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. The thing that matters is whether or not you enjoy having that phone. I just have the opinion that the hype over Apple is way too high, and the hate towards Android is really too strong. There is no reason for it. It's honestly annoying. That's really it for me, guys. Peace.